bear with me. This is hours of troubleshooting shortened down to about 5 minutes. Red CPU light was on my motherboard, so I took out my CPU chip, cleaned off the thermal paste, found out it only lasts about 4 to 5 years, so I thought it was time to replace the thermal paste. Put on some new one, reseated my CPU chip just to find out that my CPU is still overheating. So now I come to think that it is my AIO, so I got a new AIO. What I'm doing now is replacing my AIO, so I'm taking out my current 240 MSI AIO, and I'm going to replace it with the new 360 that I got. But because I switched from a 240 to a 360, now I have to get rid of the other fan at the top because it's going to take up that whole space. So now I have to replace it somewhere else. Couldn't fit it in the back, so I'm putting it at the bottom for additional airflow. Now that I have the fan reinstalled, I'm going to push the wires toward the back to where I have a multi-controller, which is the main switch for all of my fans. Here, I'm now putting together the new 360 AIO from Lee. And trust me, I get it. I know it can be very daunting to know that, oh man, I have to go back into my tower and, take out something or reinstall something or move something or troubleshoot something. That's something that I wish that I would never have to do, especially since I first built this in 2020. That was a while ago, so some of my memory of how things worked or how I connect things together were pretty fuzzy. But honestly, once I started to take things apart, it kind of reminded me of how to put it together. So don't be scared. Unless you for sure just don't want to touch it, then of course I will hire a professional. But honestly, it might be easier and save you a little bit more money if you were to troubleshoot this yourself, if you're comfortable. Okay, so I'm about done putting together the AIO. Now it's about time to install it onto the tower and the heatsink with the pump onto my CPU. Okay, so now that I reinstalled the fan from the top to the bottom, the AIO fits perfectly on top. Now I'm going to grab my CPU, remove the prior thermal paste, and reapply it. But first, I'm going to blow out a little bit of dust just to make sure everything's good. Reseat my CPU, reapply new thermal paste, rip off the sticker from the heatsink, and installing the heatsink. Okay, so I'm finishing up installing here, and then after that, we should be good to go. Now I had to give my new baby a pat of approval and a little rub down just to make sure that she's going to do her job well. Now all I have to do is just plug in the AIO connector to the motherboard, providing the AIO with power, and then connect the RGB connector to the controller at the back, which makes sure that all of the colors work together and show the same color. Now, putting everything back is not recommended, just in case if you need to troubleshoot further, but I had high confidence that it was just the AIO that went bad, and let's see. Now, I just want to take a quick moment just to appreciate how it looks while it's off, because when I turn it back on, I'm going to run into another issue. So I finally booted up my PC thinking that everything is okay, but if you look closely at my motherboard, it's not. There's a yellow VGA light, which usually could mean that the RAM sticks or the GPU is bad, especially if your computer is not booting up and there's nothing on the screen. But just a quick spoiler, neither one of my components were bad. Stick around for part 2 to find out what it was. So as any novice computer builder would do when troubleshooting their expensive computer, you start to look up a bunch of information and you basically start to do everything. So now I'm taking out my GPU, dusting it down, making sure all the connectors were good, disconnected my CMOS battery, which should restart your motherboard and reset your settings in your BIOS to default settings. Some people said that would fix it. Connected everything back up just for it still not to work. The only thing that worked for me was removing both of my RAM sticks and reinstalling them. As you can see, I got a green light, and that means that my PC has booted up. Now my keyboard and mouse has lit up, and now you can see I'm in my BIOS. Now I didn't show it because at that point, honestly, I was pretty frustrated, but I disconnected and reinstalled my RAM sticks, both my RAM sticks. Hopefully either one of these methods will help troubleshoot your issues like it did mine. See you guys next time.